Welcome to Tech Talks. My name is Michael Bertoni, and I'm the founder and CEO of Philly Tech. And thank you for coming to Tech Talks. Our show is dedicated to entrepreneurs, software companies, tech startups, people within the software and tech ecosystem that really want to innovate and want to drive value for their clients. So the show is every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. So I am so excited today. I have a tremendous founder and CEO of a company locally here in the Philadelphia region that is focused in on automatic identity verification and transformational privacy focus. So I wanted to welcome to the show Ed Zabar. Again, he is the founder and CEO of Verify. So welcome to the show, Ed. Quick, we do a quick elbow pump here. Elbow pump, nice.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the time.
Yeah. So, Ed, so excited, really excited to have you on the show because from looking at your LinkedIn, we've been working together a little bit and for a little while here and talking to each other. Tell the audience a little bit about your background, because I think your background is very interesting for a lot of other founders and people out there looking to start companies. So tell the audience a little bit about your background.
Thank you. Yes, this is my fourth startup. I've been involved with two others, early 2000s, and then one more a little bit after that that's still around. The other two were purchased. And Verify has been my baby for the past, I would say, 3.5 years, preceded by me being a CEO of a company in England. It was a technology company. And before that, I was an investment banker and a venture capitalist for a little bit over a decade. So I've been doing, technology for the better part of my career, as a technologist first, and then as a banker and a financier, but also focusing on technology, media, and telecom. Which brought me into Verify happily several years ago, and now we're here.
Yeah. So the Verify technology is really exciting. I mean, when we were talking about what you're doing in identity verification, and you give a transformational view to the market, in the software market, on how to identify privacy and things of that nature. So tell the audience a little bit about how you actually came up with this idea, right? So where did it start? Like, where did the idea germinate from? And then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so it started when one of my investment banking past careers, we were working on selling a company. And the CEO of the company had some, issues with their background, with the disclosure of what happened in their background. And when the company came about to be sold, and one of the buyers started doing due diligence, that question came about of what happened, and they couldn't verify the CEO's degree.
Right.
And after we asked, and we dug a little bit further, we found out that was fabricated, and which obviously hurt the deal, made it go away completely eventually. And then that's how I said that, we have to find a better way, and
right.
Understanding that companies do due diligence via background checks, which are still archaic and are still done the same way, more or less, for the past few decades, and other ways. So the idea was to get a platform that allows individuals to post their information, or to companies to post employees' information and universities, students, into a platform where it's aggregated, verified, and then the users gain control. So that's how it started.
Yeah. So tell the audience a little bit about your journey. So I always love when I talk to companies and I talk to people about what I do. I mean, you're a startup, but you've been around for a while. So tell the audience about you started here. Where are you now with Verify? Right. So where are you with the company? And what does Verify really do? What's the value to customers?
Yeah, so the journey started with about 3.5 years ago where I started putting together, after I finished my engagement in Europe, put together a team of professionals invested some money of my own to build a technology that allows individuals to upload their data onto a platform like they would on LinkedIn, for example. But then we take that data, validate it, give it back to the user, and then the user goes out and disseminates under their own control. So that's how it started, and we built a pilot pretty quickly. Mid 2017, we had already something out in the app stores, and we started with that. We got some initial traction with healthcare companies. We had a partnership with a staffing company, and so forth. As we moved along, we realized that one of the strongest components of identity is what's called KYC, Know Your Customer. So the validation of different identity documents for authenticity, for fraud, for manipulation, and so forth. And for us, it's a building block into what we defined together with the industry that we're in is self-sovereign digital identity, where the user has control over the different components of their identity, and they can decide who sees it, when they see it, and so forth. In the midst of that, we were involved in the blockchain industry, and we looked at different avenues there of where customers would need to use this to identify investors and users, and we've had couple of dozen clients almost through 2018, 2019. Some from the blockchain industry, some from outside, that used our services in order to identify their investors, to identify their users on a regular basis. And so that's how we kind of got our footings and got the commercial parts of the company validated. And we brought us to today, where we still have some of those old clients and some new ones, and we provide them different identity verification, backgrounds, and credentialing services to our clients to really authenticate the counterparts. It could be a business, it could be an individual, for a company to understand who they're working with, and understand also that those counterparts are in compliance with all the different regulations, like different watch lists, different SEC requirements, federal requirements, both in the United States and abroad.
Yeah. So what's really exciting when we talked about your technology is that in terms of verification and your identity and things like this, you're really doing it differently, right? You have a better way that you're doing it. So explain to the audience, the way that it's typically done, right? It's done one way, and then how do you do it, and why is that different?
Yeah, so you can break it down to, I would say, two different areas. One is the standard, what's called KYC process. And many financial institutions specifically, but it also starts spilling out to other industries, are identifying their counterparts, their investors mostly, or account holders, via a normal Know Your Customer process that's in most cases done in-house, where they have a team that takes a copy of your driver's license and takes it in the copy machine and asks you to fill out a long form, and then they take it to the back office, and the back office starts processing for various purposes and for various parts. And this can take sometimes weeks. Even though the account can be opened immediately with the assumption that everything's okay, this can take sometimes weeks, sometimes days, and so forth. Some companies outsource this to other companies, which we do as well. And then what happens is when you go into a website for bank.com and you open an account or ask to open an account, we automatically, using a mobile app or using a webcam, are able to process your identity information, have you enter the information that the customer, let's say this bank, decides as the customer as the requirements that they want the customer to enter, and all of that is validated in a matter of seconds. And once that's validated, the bank saves a lot of money and time, obviously, but also increases their accuracy of all the information. Because extracting or understanding if there's fraud on a document that's extracted via a digital camera, high-resolution digital camera like we have today on our phones or computers, versus on a fax or a picture taken on a copy machine is very, very different. So that's one area where we approve it. The second area is background checks. So today, companies still run background checks in the way that they used to do it in many years. We create that process, allow for that process to continue, but we also supplement it with the ability to digitally identify or validate some of the components of the background checks, especially employment, education, licenses, and so forth. Under these two processes, there's what we call a privacy layer. all this information that's been gathered and is being gathered daily in the millions from people around the world resides mostly with the companies that collect the information. And in most cases, those are the organizations, what we call our client organizations. Could be a bank, could be a hospital, could be a shipper, could be many others. And it's either secured or not secured. And we all have heard of the cases where private information, PII, personally identifiable information, is breached in massive breaches that were orchestrated either by individuals or country states and so forth. This privacy layer allows us to take this information, put it in a very secure blockchain-based environment where the individual control the data. The individuals have the ability to say who gets the data, when they get the data, do they terminate the data, and to benefit from that data. So that's the big change from how things are done today and how we do it differently at Verify.
And we were talking about some of the different areas of opportunity, right? And there's massive opportunity. I mean, everybody in terms of employment, you have horror stories, right? There's horror stories out there about somebody gets a job and then, 6 months later you figure out what they said, they didn't go to school at a certain thing or they didn't go to a company. But where do you see the largest opportunity with customers, right? Where's the use case really very, very impactful?
So it's very interesting. So we've obviously started this journey even before I officially started the company at the end of 2017. This journey started before that. And there's always been this focus on user control and management of their data. Over the past 2 years and a little bit since August 2015, so it's May 2018, the European Union published something called GDPR, the General Data Rights and Protections, or regulation. So what that allows is I'm going to stop here and just make sure I say it correctly. GDPR is General Data Protection Regulation, or Privacy Regulation.
Right.
And what essentially that allows is for users to be able to know what data is held about them, to be able to remove that data when they want to control that data, to share that data, and so forth. And that was then in 2019, the California Privacy Act was published, and it came into effect in January of 2020. And actually it became enforceable in July of this year, so just 2 months ago, and enforcement letters started going out in July. So essentially the regulators are pushing for more privacy regulations behind the users, the individuals to control that data. And our thesis was always the same, and now we're able to deliver that efficiently to these markets. So to your point, it applies to any organization that has concern about holding user data that could be considered PII or private in nature. We are focusing on financial services and healthcare organizations at this point, but the applicability to universities, to regular employers, to IoT systems, to shippers, to governments is all there.
Right.
So again, the market is unlimited, but it's a small company of 20-some people. We're focusing on this area.
So everyone, come on back to Tech Talks in a few minutes. I mean, this is a really exciting topic that we're talking about. I mean, so Ed has created this company that, really is ready to launch. I mean, they're obviously with more people working from home, more people working remotely because of COVID. I mean, I could see this type of technology is really needed, right? It's really needed. You're not going to be able to see as many people. You're not going to be able to interview as many people face to face. So you're going to have to put these verification processes in place. So come on back to Tech Talks in a few minutes, and we're going to be talking more about the transformational nature of Ed's technology and Verify, and talk more about customers and the value as well as the future. So come on back to Tech Talks in a few minutes. Thanks.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Welcome back to Tech Talks. My name is Michael Bertoni, and I'm the founder and CEO of Philly Tech. And I'm talking with Ed Zabar. He, again, is the founder and CEO of Verify, which is a very exciting technology that automatically identifies your identity, verification, and your privacy. And he's doing this using the blockchain. Very exciting. So, Ed, let's get a little bit more into customers, right? What types of customers are you working with, right? And where do you see the value within these customers, right? Where's the value?
Right. So our current customers are divided into two groups. Financial services organizations, so anybody that needs to be compliant with financial regulations or privacy regulations. Mm-hmm. And then healthcare organizations, which in a similar way have to observe certain regulations within their industry, as well as compliance with privacy regulations. So those are the two areas of customers that we're currently serving, and we are speaking with some very large organizations in the space as well, names that you would recognize, but I cannot disclose yet, as these contracts are not signed, and some of them have restrictions on discussing this in the open. But the areas are where people really need to understand their counterpart to ensure that they're not breaching any anti-money laundering laws, or that they really have the know your customer process down in a way that doesn't create too much of a burden on their internal operations. And then it makes sense for them to outsource that identification process to companies like ours. So it could be, if you have medical staff that you need to make sure that they're properly credentialed in a speedy and cost-efficient way, or you can have users or customers at a bank that need to be onboarded in, again, cost-effective, quick way. So those are the areas where we focus today, and the added value of actually transferring the data back to the users is very attractive for some of these organizations. And we've had some very interesting discussion with the chief marketing officers of those organizations, because they want to be able to tell the public that for the first time in their industries, they're one of the leaders that are providing customers value by giving them the data back. So while maintaining their own privacy compliance and so forth.
Yeah. So, one of the things I'm thinking about, if you think about it like a Rocket Mortgage, right?
Yeah.
Rocket Mortgage, quick, it verifies you to be able to get a loan, right? So what, again, Verify is doing here, everyone, is they have this verification process. It's quick. There's a lot of speed to it, right? And it's allowing the user also to do things and be involved in the process. One of the things I'm curious about, Ed, is I think a big differentiator is how you're leveraging blockchain, right? So everybody's interested in blockchain. So get into that a little bit more. How is Verify, at a high level, leveraging blockchain to make the process faster and more efficient?
Yeah, so before I start with that, I just want to explain, blockchain has been used and abused over the past few years in various ways. And people make the association with crypto immediately when they hear the word blockchain. Oh, that's like Bitcoin, that's like Ethereum, and it is true that those cryptocurrencies are based on the blockchain technology, but blockchain technology at its core is a very sophisticated database technology. And that's how we use it, and that's how we look at it. We ignore, or we put aside the crypto part of it. We don't use that. We just specifically look at the more advanced features of the database. And part of those features that are very interesting for us are, for example, the immutability of records. So once I validated that someone went to, an Ivy League university, and that was confirmed by a validated source, that thing is immutable. It cannot be changed, not by the user or by the university.
Right.
Once to be validated, someone worked for a Fortune 50 company, and that was validated in the way we deem appropriate to be validated. That's it, immutable. It cannot be changed. What that does also, it creates an immutable ledger or an immutable chain of custody, which can then be easily auditable. And again, because it can't be changed, it can be trusted much more than others. There are other features of the blockchain like private key management and access management that are inherent to some of the ways that blockchain is implemented if these tools are used, which are very powerful for us where permissions are required for backup purposes, for specific access to specific levels of information, and so forth. So those are just some of the items that we use blockchain for. Obviously, the blockchain technology as a whole has encryption built in and other features that increase the security of the actual records. Last, I would say there's something called decentralized storage that's based on blockchain technology, which really underpins the ability to provide individuals with access and ability to manage their own pieces of data.
Yeah. So another thing I was really curious about when I was talking with you earlier was how do you license this technology? Like, so if a company is working with like a Fortune 1000 or a big staffing company or some big consulting company, there's just a lot of opportunity out there. How is it licensed at a high level? Like, so how does that work?
Well, we mostly work on software as a service basis. So it's either delivered via dashboards, web-based dashboards, or there's some functionality in the mobile app, or it's via APIs. So we connect their systems to our systems and deliver the solutions to them in a seamless way where they can keep on using their own interface or use their existing tech team to develop their own interface the way they see appropriate with our guidance, of course, and assistance. And then they can release it to their own, to their own user base. So if you think about a big financial organization or healthcare organization, most of them have detailed websites that have gone through many, many iterations of a lot of work, and they wouldn't want us to touch their website. They would just take the APIs and integrate it in the way they see fit. So that's normally how it worked. We have been approached by various organizations from around the world about licensing the technology, and some of these conversations are currently ongoing, and we're trying to find out what's the right opportunity for us in the licensing world.
So basically what you're saying is you have the ability to integrate into things they're doing via an API, or they have the ability to work with you directly via an interface and that sort of thing. What I'm really, again, another thing I'm curious about, your vision for this, right? I mean, there's a lot of application for this, right? All over the workplace, a lot of different. So where do you feel this is going in terms of your company over the next 5 years, the next 10 years? What's your vision for the company?
So without sounding too naive, the long-term goal is for everybody in the world to have control over their own data.
Right.
To have control over their own sensitive data. There's no reason why, one of the largest credit unions got breached. My information, like 145 million other people's information, got stolen, and we don't benefit from it, and we are the only ones who will really absorb the cost of that in the future. There's no reason why background checks should go along and people should pay for them, and the user has no control or actually understanding of what's in there, and so forth and so forth. So if a bank gets breached, like many have been, or other institutions are breached, and my credit card or passport or driver's license is stolen, there is no reason for that to keep on happening, and we kind of keep making the same mistakes over and over. The vision is that people will understand that not only the privacy regulations require better control over these, but also companies like ours will provide a solution that's easy to use by both the user and the organization and provides exponentially higher levels of security for all this highly sensitive data that can be used for identity theft, for financial thefts, for impersonations, and for other purposes that are not legal.
Yeah. So another thing that I always like to tell the audience about and understand a little bit more is stories, right? So do you have any stories where customers, I'm sure you do, where customers have said, geez, Ed, what you did here or Verify, it really helped my company, right? So tell us about some of those stories, that you talk about when you're talking about new clients.
Right. Well, so I'll try to make it short and just give you a few. But for example, we worked with a financial services company that had to onboard clients in a standard know your customer process, but they were also concerned because they were operating out of Europe with the data privacy regulations.
Right.
We were able to process, massive amounts of users for them in a way that was compliant with financial regulations, first and foremost, because that was their first concern. And then second, with privacy regulations, by giving users the data back or giving the options for the users to hold their data back. And that company said that they were really impressed with the way we've done it. It was simple for them, easy to use. The users were very happy. It created better relationships for them with their end users on top of providing them their own service. So that was just one example. Another example was a digital advertising where we essentially were able to reduce fraud within an ad network because of the fact that some of the participants on both sides of the transaction had to go through specific validation processes in order to ensure that they're good actors and they're not fake identities and fake individuals or bots or so forth. So that was also, it reduces their losses on certain verticals in a massive way from the first few weeks of implementation. So those are just a few examples. We've also done some implementations in healthcare most recently, and they've said that the process that we provided to them was cheaper, simpler for their end users or providers, and for the administration of the firm itself to manage this large volume of participants that we've processed for them.
So Ed, we got to wrap up. So tell the audience where they could find you, right?
Yep.
So obviously your website, where they can find you online, where's the best place to reach out to you?
Yeah, so www.verify with a dash between the F and the Y.com is where the company's website is. We are obviously on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, and we're all over. If you want to see us, if you want to get in touch with us, info@verify.com is a good place to start. And we're happy to speak with anybody at any time about new ideas, new expansion possibilities, new client opportunities, and so forth. So we're very happy about this opportunity to be here and to share our vision and to see growth in privacy capabilities for individuals as well as companies over the next several years.
So everyone, this has been a great show. So absolutely reach out to Ed and Verify. If you need to verify, you might have employees in your company right now where you're like, I'm not really sure about these people or this group of people or something like that. So make sure you reach out to Ed and Verify, right? Take a look at his technology. If you know companies, obviously large companies, consulting companies, large organizations, right, that have a lot of employees, they could absolutely benefit. So come on back to Tech Talks every week, 12:30 p.m., and it's been an awesome pleasure having Ed on the show. And come on back next week. So we'll talk to you soon. And Ed, again, thanks a lot for being on the show.
Thank you very much.